Thank you and good evening, everyone. And I hope to have you out of here, or actually, I promise to have you out of here in time to watch the Razorback game. So, I want to first thank the City of Fayetteville staff, whose contributions will be talked about and woven throughout my speech this evening. I want to thank my fellow elected city officials, several of whom are able to be here with us tonight: Judge Casey Jones, Clerk Kara Paxton, Fayetteville City Attorney Kit Williams, and the members of the City Council: Bob Stafford, Dr. DeAndre Jones, Sarah Moore, Mike Wiedeker, Sarah Bunch, Scott Berna, Teresa Turk, and Minister Monique Jones. When I ran for mayor, I promised to always strive to listen first, not just to the loud conversations or the easy conversations, but to the day-to-day realities of living and working in Fayetteville. Over the past year, I've had the privilege of sitting at kitchen tables, of touring job sites, visiting neighborhoods, and walking through city facilities. What I heard again and again is that people want a city that works, that shows up, and that plans ahead without losing sight of who we are. That belief informed everything we did this year. We spend a lot of time in conversations about housing, so it's no surprise that this is the first thing I'm going to talk about this evening. We talk about it with developers and housing advocates, of course, but also with residents who are worried about whether they can stay in the city that they love. People who are frustrated, tired, and asking the same question over and over again in different ways. Is anyone actually in charge of this? Is anyone paying attention? Housing pressure shows up everywhere: in rents, in traffic, in classrooms, in retaining employees, and in strains on our infrastructure. And for some of our neighbors, it shows up as not knowing where they will sleep at night. It is an everyday issue that we work on and think about day in and day out. I believe that bold leadership sometimes can look like taking one small step consistently over and over and over again. It comes from showing up and rebuilding trust when it's been lost, and in placing leadership where it belongs. One of the earliest steps towards housing reliability was reestablishing a working relationship with the Fayetteville Housing Authority. That relationship had been strained, and the consequences were felt by real people. So we went back to the basics: stability, accountability, and shared responsibility. Our city took the unprecedented step of providing $200,000 worth of funding to the Housing Authority to jumpstart their path towards real and sustained housing programs. So to the council members in the room, thank you. Thank you for that vote and for that support. We also made a clear decision to strengthen housing leadership at the city. We hired Arkansas's first chief housing officer and elevated leadership within our newly named Department of Housing and Community Services. Not as a symbolic move, though those are important, and I will talk about that a little bit later on, but because housing solutions require daily attention and long-term focus that only having a dedicated staff member can provide. Residents want to know that as Fayetteville grows, the people who live and work here full-time aren't being pushed aside. So we updated how we approach large student housing developments, requiring special permits so that we can better align growth with livability. That wasn't about stopping or halting development, but rather about making sure that we have the type of growth that works for the whole community. It's why we strengthened our engineering and development services teams and their processes. We added staff so projects can move forward with clarity and predictability, so that when residents are ready to build, invest, or expand, we are making sure the city is poised to be a partner and not a barrier. We launched 2 new programs to expedite housing development: permit-ready plans, and same-day permit approvals. Both of these focus on residents. In 2025, residential building permits for single-family homes and duplexes were issued 36% faster than in the 3 prior years, shaving 2 weeks off permit wait times. Apartment permits were issued 20% faster. We got serious about reducing the time people have to wait for engineering review or grading permits. Our team has now seen a reduction in wait times for grading permits of 50% since the first quarter of 2025, reducing the average number of days people wait for a grading permit from 23 days down to just 9 days. This means getting projects to construction and to completion more quickly, which is an important factor in housing affordability. And then there's the hardest part of this conversation, or the part that is the most often the hardest: homelessness and our unhoused neighbors. People told me they didn't want quick fixes or slogans. They wanted coordination, dignity, and for us to listen to the voices of those with lived experience, as I am regularly reminded by 2 of my council members that are right there in the front row. They wanted to know that the city was leading and working and not just pointing fingers and casting blame. Already in 2026, one small thing you may have noticed is a more coordinated response to extreme weather, particularly when it comes to coordination between the city, outreach teams, and our volunteer emergency shelter providers and volunteers. With the city taking a more active role in this process, individuals utilizing emergency shelters had more advanced notice of schedules, more clear expectations regarding the check-in process, and more predictability about how decisions were made regarding when we open. This may seem small, but it's meaningful. We heard from shelter staff that they saw a reduction in the number of conflicts amongst their clients. They attributed this to clearer information, leading to reduced stress and a sense of agency and a greater sense of dignity around the experience. Housing is not a single policy, nor is it a single program. It's a long game that requires patience, persistence, and leadership willing to stay at the table even when the process and the progress feels slow, and knowing that we are building momentum. We cannot talk about housing unless we talk about infrastructure. Without the improved roads and sufficient capacity in our water and sewer systems, we cannot build the housing units that we need. This is an unseen aspect of housing. So we made a decision this year to focus on the work that a lot of people never see or never think about until it goes wrong, but that it is key to growing and adding more housing. Water. I've met with residents, and that's when I drank my water. What a great time and segue. I wish I could say that was planned. I've met with residents who've shared their frustrations about how many water leaks and water shutoffs they've experienced. There are 10,000 service lines across the city, many of which are leaking due to deteriorating materials. Our team repaired over 1,000 lines last year, and we're on track to repair even more in 2026. We made the decision to do this in-house with our own crews. While this saves taxpayer dollars, which we know is important, that was not the sole reason for this decision. For me, the selling point was time. Working on this in-house means we can get it done faster. But perhaps the best benefit of conducting this work in-house, one that we did not expect, is something I spoke about with my team just today. And it is that the culture shift that has occurred amongst our water crews. This project has noticeably boosted morale and allowed our crews the opportunity to see the real impact they are having on our city in a tangible way. We also launched an online tool so residents can see a real map of those lines that need repair. You don't have to guess what's happening between the scenes. You can see it. Thank you for those of you that helped push to get us going on that project. This year, we also broke ground on the Highway 112 expansion and kicked off a downtown master plan led by local voices. While distinct projects with different goals, both of those are forward-looking and they're rooted in the same idea, and that is that Fayetteville is going to keep growing, so we must grow intentionally. Speaking of intention and end of the future, later this year, the city's second large solar array will open. Once it's online, 93% of the energy consumption from city properties will be from clean energy sources, with a bold goal to make that number 100% by 2030. We are modernizing Fayetteville's recycling system, and soon we'll roll out a new cart-based program designed to increase participation, reduce confusion, and make the process more consistent for households across the city. This is what it looks like when a city plans not just for today, but for the next generation. One of the first challenges faced by our new administration coming in was financial. We inherited a projected $3 million deficit in the general fund, and there was no easy way around it. The choices before us required discipline, transparency, and a willingness to focus on the long term rather than on quick fixes. For 2026, we passed a balanced budget, not by cutting corners, but by making careful decisions and aligning spending with priorities. However, budgets don't run cities. People do. There are moments in a city when nothing else matters except the people who show up. When there's a fire in the middle of the night, when a call for help comes in and someone is scared or hurt or is in danger. When seconds matter and there's no room for confusion or error. Public safety is built long before those moments happen. It's built through training, trust, and by making sure the people who serve our community know that the city stands behind them. Last year, Fayetteville made history by passing Arkansas's first Firefighters' Bill of Rights, setting clear expectations and ensuring that the men and women of our fire department are always treated fairly and with respect. As Fayetteville grows, we're planning future fire stations, fire trucks, and training facilities. That work is about readiness and about making sure our firefighters have what they need before an emergency ever occurs. Public safety also depends on trust, and trust is built through presence, accountability, and ongoing learning and training. That's why we will continue investing in police officer training. This is a commitment to professionalism, safety, and relationships between officers and the people they serve. When public safety works, it's because preparation meets the moment. That's the standard that we are setting here in Fayetteville. Most of life in Fayetteville actually doesn't happen in those big dramatic moments, though. Most of it happens on ordinary days. It happens when someone waits for a bus in the rain, or when someone who uses a wheelchair has to figure out how to navigate how to get across town without a car. Residents talk to me less about grand visions for their city than they do about these everyday experiences that impact their daily lives. They don't ask for perfection. They ask for things to work better, for things to work more reliably and more equitably. One of the clearest messages I hear is about public transit options. People depend on it to get to work, to school, to medical appointments, and to child care providers. That's why this year, Council approved at our recommendation a 40% increase in public transit funding in 2026 to expand service and improve reliability. This is a recognition that mobility isn't a luxury. It has a real, measurable impact on people's lives. In the past several months, our team has begun work on a very ambitious goal: to make sure that every single bus stop in Fayetteville has a bus shelter and a bench. In the past several months, we have added 6 bus shelters, and I would like to promise everyone here this evening that every bus stop in Fayetteville will be covered by the end of 2028, if not before. These changes and improvements are about removing small barriers that add up one at a time and make Fayetteville just a little bit easier to live in, one ordinary day after another. These changes don't always make headlines, but they do shape how our city feels to the people who live here. And that's why it's important to me. The availability of a good job is another one of the most important opportunities that a city can deliver. A good job means stability. It means opportunity. And a good job gives people the chance to build a better life in the place they call home. To provide good jobs, we need to attract employers. Early in my term, I met with employers from across Fayetteville's Commerce District, business leaders who collectively support thousands of jobs in our city. And I'll be honest, they were surprised to see me there. That moment stayed with me because it underscored something important. Strong economic partnerships don't just happen by accident. They happen when you nurture them. They happen when you show up with consistency and trust. One of the companies in the room that day was Packaging Specialties, a Fayetteville-based business that's been a part of our community for more than 50 years. At the time, they were facing a major decision, where to invest $24 million into one of their existing facilities and to create 100 new jobs. Fayetteville competed for that investment. That day and today, our message is simple. Our city values our employers, and we are open for business. Fayetteville won that project, securing one of the first major employer expansions the city has seen in several years. I've had the opportunity to learn about companies like Mimic Biosystems, founded right here in Fayetteville by Lexi Applequist and Kartik Balachandran. Mimic grew out of research at the University of Arkansas and is working to advance biomedical research around the world, beginning right here in our community. But economic development isn't only about large projects or big numbers. It's also about whether the city shows up for people at the beginning of their journey. I met a young woman named Jamila Jamal after she arrived in Northwest Arkansas as a refugee from Afghanistan. Her dream was to open a restaurant in her new hometown. But like many small business owners, especially those that are new to this country, access to capital was a major barrier for her. Traditional financing wasn't an option. Through Fayetteville's partnership with Startup Junkie and the Kiva microloan program, that barrier came down, and her restaurant will soon be open right here in Fayetteville. Over the past year, our economic development team has responded to more formal inquiries from prospective employers than in the previous several years combined. That's part of why we restored the city's partnership with Chamber of Fayetteville after a 4-year lapse, ensuring our business community has a clear seat at the table and a strong partner in City Hall. When we say Fayetteville is open for business, we mean it, whether you're investing millions of dollars or starting a dream with a family recipe. It starts by us showing up. I am reminded again and again that what sets Fayetteville apart from other cities in our region and across the country is our culture, an authenticity that can't be manufactured. I believe that culture and that authenticity comes in large part from the people who live here and also from our values. And those are values that show up in the decisions we make through our ordinances and for our residents, but also in how we treat our staff and our team. I listen to city staff across departments, many of whom have been carrying heavy workloads through years of uncertainty. What comes through clearly is how much every single one cares about the work that they do and how much it matters to them that their expectations are clear and consistent. That is why we launched the most comprehensive compensation study in the city's history. The goal is straightforward: to make sure Fayetteville remains competitive in the job market and can recruit and retain the people that our city relies on every day. It's also the right thing to do for our city team, and I believe that is also a core value for our city. Our values are also reflected in shared moments when we come together and celebrate. Fayetteville is host to one of my favorite events, the Pride Parade. It is the largest in the region, and it reaffirms our city's commitment to equality. But what we did not have previously, or had not in several years, was a parade honoring our veterans. So last year, for the first time in over a decade, we brought it back. Bringing back this parade matters. For many families, it was a chance to line the sidewalk together, to say thank you, and to recognize service that connects generations. For those who have served our country, this was a small way that Fayetteville could say thank you. And I also believe that that is a core value for our city. The arts play a similar role. They give voice to creativity, invite reflection, and help tell the stories of who we are. Through support for public art, local and world-renowned artists, and cultural programming, we are making sure that Fayetteville remains a place where creativity is visible and valued. Our values also ask us to be honest about what parts of our history no longer serve us. Fayetteville made the decision to rename 2 streets with racist and exclusionary origins. This action acknowledges that who we are today should be reflected in the places we share and in the names we live with. Because it was a simple thing does not mean it was a small thing. Some of the simplest changes we can make can have the most profound impact. Culture also lives in the places where people gather. In our parks, families meet after work, kids learn to ride bikes, neighbors cross paths, and communities take shape in small and ordinary ways. Over the past year, we've continued investing in parks and public spaces, recognizing them as essential parts of daily life in Fayetteville. Those spaces build connection and create community. And in our growing city, community matters more than ever. When pieced together, these choices about our values reflect something deeper than a set of individual decisions. They reflect a city that is growing without losing its sense of self. A city that honors service, understands its sometimes complicated history, and pays attention to the details of people's daily lives. A city that understands culture isn't static, but we must shape it together. That's Fayetteville. Over the past year, I've had the privilege with spending time with people across Fayetteville, in neighborhoods, in workplaces, in classrooms, and community spaces. I've listened to what you're proud of, what you're worried about, and what you hope this city can become. What I've learned is this: people don't expect perfection from their city. They expect effort. They expect honesty. And they expect a government that keeps showing up. None of the progress you've heard about tonight happened because of one person. Leadership doesn't start or stop with the mayor or with the council. It lives in department directors, city staff, our partners, and the residents who care enough to speak up and stay engaged. Inside City Hall, I want to solidify a culture where people are trusted to lead, encouraged to try new ideas, and supported as they grow and as Fayetteville grows. We know we won't get everything right the first time, but we are committed to adjusting, to learning, and to trying again, because standing still isn't an option. Fayetteville is a city that works best when it works together, when we invest in the systems behind the scenes so that people can build lives, businesses, and futures with confidence. when we honor what makes this place special while also planning thoughtfully about what comes next. This year was about laying foundations, about building trust, and about choosing progress that is intentional, that is steady, and that is shared. Thank you for holding us accountable. Thank you for being a part of this work. And thank you for continuing to help shape the future of Fayetteville. We have much more to do, and we will keep doing it together. Thank you. Great. How
Wonderful.
Are you?
Good. My name is Matthew Moore. If we haven't had an opportunity to meet, I am the co-host of Ozarks At Large, part of KUAF Public Radio. I am honored to be here with you, Mayor Rawn. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you.
We're going to take just a little bit of time here. I know everyone wants to get to the game, so I will cut my questions in half here. Let's start by talking about in your speech how you lay out that a priority of your administration is housing. A recent report came out from the Milken Institute that shows Northwest Arkansas is the best performing big metro area in the United States. I'm sure you've seen this report yourself. Yes. And the report said one of the strengths of this region is its affordable housing. And that was a question, I don't know if you guys heard the opportunity to have me ask her this question, but I said, that's odd. What is your response when you hear that from data like this?
So I'm glad you asked that. And by the way, I would like to just tell the audience I did not see these questions beforehand. So I can understand why that's jarring and startling. I believe that we have the ability to hold two truths at the same time, right? So we can acknowledge that Fayetteville and Northwest Arkansas is more affordable than several other growing metro areas across the country. And we can be proud of and happy that that helps businesses attract and retain talent here. At the same time, that doesn't do a whole lot if you can't afford to make rent. So two things can be true at the same time. We can be proud of that and acknowledge that it puts us in a good position competitively, but we also can't afford to forget who all is being left out of that and the very real impact that people in our region are feeling when we still have challenges with affordability.
So what do you think the gap is in the data there?
I think that and with that report specifically, and I don't have it in front of me, they are looking at, they're comparing us to larger areas, larger metros, and it's not always apples to apples. There are things that make sense and the compare and things that don't.
Yeah. There was an article that came out in KUAF's rival news outlet, the New York Times, recently about Fayetteville. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. At the top
I've heard of that publication.
Yeah. At the top of the page is a looping video that features solar panels in a grassy field. Yeah. Interviews with you and with Peter Nierengarten here with the city.
Teresa Turk on the city council.
Yes, thank you. Tell me more about the city's emphasis on sustainability and energy consumption.
So that is something that I knew from being a Fayetteville resident for as long as I have that was important to Fayetteville well before my taking office and has been, like I mentioned in my speech, a core value for us. We have Peter Nierengarten on staff, who is our Director of Sustainability. I believe he may be the only sustainability director for a municipality in the state. And I think that, that shows we're putting our money where our mouth is. I mean, 93% already that we're offsetting with clean energy of city buildings. The goal is to get to 100 on or, at or before the 2030 mark. And what I didn't say is that 100% of the energy that is generated from our 2 wastewater treatment plants is already completely offset by yet another solar array. So it's something that we are really proud of. It's something that isn't ideological as much as it is, but it's also about the economics. So that's something that I feel like every city and everyone should be able to get behind. It's not partisan, it's good sense, good governance.
Public transportation has seen an increase in funding, around 40%, as you said in your speech. There's been 6 new bus shelters added, and we've seen the work that continues to happen on Maple Street, for better or for worse, depending on what time of day you're trying to drive through there. Can Can you talk more about trails and sidewalks as more than just a place for recreation here in the city?
Absolutely. People rely on our sidewalks and pedestrian infrastructure to be able to get around. They rely on public transit. Not everybody has a car, so that's important. Also, we see more and more that as commuting in different ways, whether that means walking or riding a bike, leads to healthier outcomes. We see more people that also are choosing to move about that way. And it's always interesting to hear, well, I never see anybody riding a bike on that street, on that trail, but then all of a sudden you put the infrastructure there and you do. So it's something that I really want to commend the efforts of our staff for working on for so long.
Yeah, it's a manifestation of the if you build it, they will come kind of idea, right? Early voting in Arkansas starts a week from today. For residents of Arkansas, 9 bond measures will be on their ballot. This measure includes water and sewer upgrades, fire facilities, equipment, road and pedestrian improvements, a new animal shelter, recycling facilities, aquatic center. First, before we get into a few of the specifics there, why
And
this
fire.
approach?
You left off fire, training facilities, and apparatus.
Oh, I
in the
said fire
station.
facilities and equipment.
Oh, you did. I
Yeah,
missed it.
that's
I
okay.
apologize.
That's okay. Why this approach to funding these projects?
Municipalities in Arkansas don't have an abundance of options available to them when it comes to making large capital investments. This is, bond initiatives are what we have. And one of the things that is important to me, as others have pointed out about a bond package like this, is that it shares that cost amongst not just people that live here, but people that are visiting here. So when you come in town for a Razorback game, or when you come and buy goods or services here in Fayetteville, that tax is also, you are also paying into those resources that you use. The other option for many of these things, particularly on the infrastructure side, like water and sewer, is to pass those along to the ratepayers. And we fight as hard as we can to really decrease the amount that we are having to raise those rates. And so a bond presents an opportunity for us to do that in a way that is fiscally responsible, but also allow us to make those big quality of life investments and infrastructure investments.
Issue 8 seems to be the one that has received the most attention out of all of these. This is the one regarding a year-round aquatic facility that includes both indoor and outdoor capacities. I have seen signs in my neighborhood that are encouraging people to vote no on Issue 8 and are using the hashtag Save Lewis Park when they have those signs up. What is your response when you hear this sort of feedback or you see these signs yourself?
My first thought is to remember, and what I remind myself of is how grateful I am that we still live in a place where freedom of expression is allowed and people have the right to post and hashtag things that they feel passionate about, right? I think that's a core value of our country. Secondly, I'm thrilled and proud of the work that our Parks Department, of our previous city councils, that the residents have put in to planning for the aquatic facility. I believe it's an important quality of life amenity that we are missing adequate access to in Fayetteville. So everybody is entitled to an opinion, but I really encourage people to support it. I think that it is what the majority of people in Fayetteville want to see. And I think that is something that by and large will make our community better.
When you get back on the stage next year to give another speech, what do you hope to be bragging about this time next year?
Passing the bond. I believe that is the most...
And by the bond, you mean all
all
of it?
9. I believe that's the single most important thing that we can do for our city's future at this time.
Do you think about a possibility of one or more of those not passing?
No.
Good answer. 2 more questions for you here. Fayetteville is a city that is pretty transient. There's a huge university community that's here as well. How do you think about governance and administration in a place where tens of thousands of people come and go on a regular basis?
I love that about our community. It certainly makes it challenging, but I also think that it brings new ideas. new energy, new employer opportunities. I mean, just, mentioning Humimic in my, in my speech earlier, that's the type of research and development that we wouldn't have but for the fact that we are a university city. And so I'm proud that we have the University of Arkansas here. Does it bring challenges? Yes. Does it make it harder to govern? Yes. Ask anybody on the city council that, it brings with it challenges. But ultimately, I feel very blessed that we're in this community and that we get to be surrounded by that kind of energy.
My final question might be my hardest question for you. As someone who works at KUAF, a member station of NPR, if you had the opportunity to pick your dream Tiny Desk concert, someone who hasn't performed yet at the Tiny Desk, who are you choosing?
I mean, I'm going to say Bruce Springsteen.
You can't say Bruce Springsteen.
Okay,
well, that's a given. That's a given.
Other than Springsteen, I think Isbell's performed already on Tiny Desk. Has Taylor done Tiny Desk? Yeah. You know what? I would pick a band from Fayetteville. I would want to highlight. I met a middle schooler. His name is Jet Boyette, and he got T-shirts made. And many of you may know Jet's mom, Chava, and he plays at the farmers market, and he plays his guitar. And I think that'd be really awesome to have a kid from Fayetteville go and be on Tiny Desk. Yeah.
Molly, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.